All right, so now we're going to post and create a widget. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. My approach is that we use the smart dumb component and actually just have the top layer component be in charge of what methods to call when an action happens in these lower components. So what I'm saying is, instead of coming into widget details component and injecting the widget service in here and directly calling the methods on the widget service, instead I only keep the widget service in the top level widgets component, and I subscribe to events like I created here on the widgets detail that I fire when certain things happen. So let's multi-line this thing so you can see what's happening. We'll walk through it. So what I mean by is the method to actually post the server and get events should be stored only in this top level component here and not in the widgets detail. And then we'll pass those down as events like this, right? So what we just did was in detail component, oops, where'd it go, where'd it go? Right here. So this fetch widgets right here. We're doing it in here, and we also, what we want to do is we want to create the create widget and the update widget. We'll just do the create widget for now. So the create widget is going to be a method, and it's going to take in the widget, and right now we'll just log the widget. Cool. So we have this create widget method here that we want to use and subscribe to an event on one of its child components. So we want, when the widget's detail is in the state where it's trying to create a component, we want the widget's detail just to fire an event and output and pass us the selected widget that it wants to create. And then this top level component will create it. So we do that by subscribing to this event called create that I made, and we'll show you in a minute. We use outputs. And I'm saying, hey, when this event is fired, call this method create widget with this given event that's passed in. So now we'll go to widget details, and we'll see where I did that. So I made an output, called it create, and it's just an event emitter. Right? And then down here on this submit method, which is tied to, on the form, the ng submit, or is it submit? I don't know, because submit is a valid event, but I know they have ng submit. We'll play with those too. So it's going to issue the submit method, which then just checks to see, oh, if the selected widget has an ID, then you're trying to update it. I got it backwards. If it doesn't have an ID, then you're trying to create it. And the update and create are both event emitters. So that's why I'm able to just assign it to this method here, and I can say method.emit the selected widget. Could have did an if-else statement here too. So again, when the submit happens on the form, this method's going to run, which is going to select either to update or create based on if the selected widget has an ID or not. And then it's just going to emit that. Once that is emitted, if we go back into widgets component, it's going to call the statement that is subscribed to here, which in this case is called create widget or update widget, passing in that one. So let's check it out. So we'll say widget here, create, and update. So let's see what happens. Open up the console. So right now it's on create a widget because there isn't a selected widget. So if I type in some stuff, clear the console out, and hit save, boom. Exactly what we thought was going to happen. The create method was called with the given selected component. Pretty awesome. Now let's test it out on update. So if I click this update one, now we're in update mode. And if I change the price on this, and I hit save, boom, now we're in the update method. And because that's how I had it set up here, that's what's happening right here. We're switching out between the two outputs. So now we got that wired up and we know it's good to go. Now all we got to do is tie in the actual service methods to the server to call that. So let's do that right now. So now inside of these methods, instead of logging, what we'll do now, because we have access to the widget service, we can now use a method that we have not created yet, but we'll just act like it exists. We can design our API before we create it, which is a really great way to write code, I think. It's probably the best way. So we'll say widget services dot post. So we're going to create one. So we're going to do a post request here, and to the URL that we want to post to, it should already. Did I already not? Okay, let's define it. Private. Oh no, never mind. We don't need to do that. Widget service. Let's call it create. Create one. There we go. And this is going to take a widget. And then this is also an observable, so we'll subscribe to it. And we'll just see what the response is. Because obviously we want to wait till the database updates it and then add it to our UI. Unless we're making like an optimistic UI, which we're not right now. Cool, so we have that. This thing's freaking out because it's like, yo, there is no create one method, obviously. So let's go make that. So now we get to come back into our service. We'll make a create one method, which takes in a widget to create. And then all it's going to do is just return this .http .post to this .url with the JSON .stringify widget and no options. And then we're going to map the response to response.json, because I believe JSON server is truly RESTful. So on this post, I believe it should return the saved instance of the data that we post, which is the exact same data that we posted with an ID property. So that's why we want to get that back. So let's see what happens. And actually, let's just be optimistic. Let's assume that it's going to work, and let's just go ahead and update the UI too. So instead of doing console.log, let's just go ahead and update it. We'll say this. We could do this all over here. This dot widgets dot push response. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's check it out. So we have one widget in there. We're creating a new one. This is my new widget. It is $300. We hit save. It added something. Looks like I got the property names mixed up, obviously. Let's see. Let's look at the network tab. So we made a post request to widgets. Oh, it just sent back an ID. I don't know why JSON server just decided to do that, but that's what it sent back. It sent back an ID. We can get around that right quick. I can just do a quick merge, but I think you guys get the point. It's just the implementation detail of the JSON server. Any questions on that?
Push widget instead of the response.
I could push widgets instead of the response, but it's like
You still need to put the ID on that.
yeah. That's what I say. I can do a quick merge. I could just merge this response with this widget and push it on there. But obviously, you wouldn't do that in like a real scenario, because if it didn't save in the database and you updated the UI, then you just had to take it off again. And you just tease the user. So it's really shitty. Any other questions on this? Everybody good on HTTP? This is just scratching the surface. There's so much more with observables and stuff. But again, I do highly recommend like getting to know observables very, very well. It seems kind of like hard to grep, and it really is. But really, if you just break it down to the two operations that are there, which are just like you can observe things, and then the operators, which if you ever got heavy into functional programming or use Lodash exclusively, it's very similar. It's not that much difficult to wrap your head around. So I recommend checking out like RX Marbles and stuff like that.
Also, there's a great front-end master's course on RX.
Oh yeah, duh. There's a front-end master's course by Jafar, so check that one out. It's pretty legit.
Who is a core contributor to RxJS.
Core contributor. Yeah.
Pretty much who I want to be like when I grow up.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Check that one out. I watched it. I learned a lot from it. So highly recommend it.